Hey guys, welcome back to the table. You are listening to Finding a Toria, a weekly TTRPG podcast where a group of friends gets together and talks everything we can think to talk about TTRPGs. And we are so grateful that you come and listen to us while we have fun. So today we are at the table with my good friends Jess.
Hello.
Malcolm.
Good morning.
And myself, Arcadia, as your host. So we wanted to talk a little bit today about storytelling in the world of TTRPGs. Basically, every game that I can think of in some way is about telling a narrative story. And we have in a previous episode discussed about how the GMs are sort of the funcilitators. Is that the word?
Oh, if that sticks, I'm so happy.
Of the storytelling. I want to dig into that a little bit today. We are all GMs. We are all players. And we all sit down regularly to tell stories at our table. And the overarching question I think I want to dig into is what makes that storytelling different than, say, a scripted story. And I really want to dig into whether or not, opinion-wise, we think that's better than a scripted story. Are you guys good with digging into that?
Works for me. Yeah.
No. I'm kidding. This sounds really great.
I'm like, Jess is our author.
I don't want to talk about writing and stories.
Who loves to tell stories. So I thought it could be interesting. What's better, group storytelling or individual storytelling? Hold on. I am so sorry. Excuse me.
Oh my God. That was the most adorable sneeze I have ever heard in my life. Like, my 1-year-old nephew does not sneeze as cutely as that.
That was a disturbingly animated sneeze. Also, the force that it took to hold that into a cute anime sneeze may have created a rift in space-time. Are you all right?
I'm good, as long as we don't see the doctor show up.
Okay.
If you hear a vroom, vroom in a blue box, let me know.
So we've got yeah.
Okay. So, collaborative storytelling versus scripted storytelling. First off, I want your opinion. Which do you think creates a better story and why? Or are they too different? I mean, share your opinions about that.
I mean, I like them both for sure. And there's definitely I spend the bulk of my spare time when I'm not working or here or reading or otherwise engaging with like solo media where there's like, a single author. But like, I kind of have discovered that, sometimes that collaborative thing, like, honestly makes the story a bit better. Some of my favorite works have been collaborations between two different authors. Mm-hmm. And I think like the coming together of different people's ideas can actually make the original idea just that much richer. So yeah, there's definitely a place for single author, single writer media for sure. And there's a lot of really, really good stuff out there. But at the same time, there's just something kind of magical about taking, say, my idea and then seeing what, I guess in the context of a TTRPG, seeing what the players do with that. Mm-hmm. And then just how much richer that makes the world I created.
Sure.
Like a really great example is I have that campaign that I'm running that's kind of loosely inspired by the Japanese bakumatsu in the 1850s, 60s, 70s kind of period of time in Japanese history. And I've taken that, ported it into space. They're just kind of like loosely based off of that. And, I have a story I want to tell. But at the same time, like, there's I had a funny idea about, oh, well, what if I had this glow in the dark lichen that makes you fly if you eat it? Well, there's like now a whole planned drug empire about selling that, like as, quote unquote, it's medicinal. And like, I never would have thought to include that, but that's just made the whole thing so much richer. Mm-hmm. And like the weird questions people ask me mid-game, like, I didn't prepare for that. I didn't think about that at all, and now I'm making shit up on the fly to answer these questions. It's like, this is great. Like the world I created is so much richer because of other people's wondering, oh, well, what's on the menu at this tea house?
Right.
What kind of games are at this festival?
Yeah.
So the players aren't really influencing like the main story over like the overarching, like the high level stuff, but like they're making the smaller details, thus far at least, smaller details just that much richer. Mm-hmm. And that may end up having an effect on the overarching thing too, but like, I have to deal with that drug empire somehow now. Like that's going to be a main part of it. It's like, okay. And that makes me as a
pharmaceuticals, medicinal. Yeah.
It's glow in the dark lichen that makes you fly, literally. So like, even if I'm kind of the predominant story thread of this and it's less like fully collaborative and more, they're just making me think, like they're making me think about it in ways that I didn't before.
Okay.
So the input from other people, whether they're adding to it or not, has made me think in a different way. And now I have to accommodate these different.
Sure.
And so I think that you're only going to get that in even like a novel with two authors. Like, yeah, you're going to get that same kind of thing, but like having to, like a TTRPG campaign is for the players, right? Mm-hmm. So I have to accommodate what I know that they want to do, and it makes me think about the story in a completely different way. And that's just creativity-wise very, very cool.
Yeah. I sort of see when you talk about like something where it's like a multiple author work or something like that, or say writers for a TV show, where you have multiple voices. I think it's different because you might sit down and have a conversation and come to some agreement about how you want that part of the story to go. And you've had multiple people thrown in ideas, but you all sort of come around to, let's have it go this way. And with TTRPGs, with role playing, you don't necessarily get to have that conversation, as long, depending on how open your player agency is, but it's basically your player saying, hey, I want to do this. Can I try to do this? And then they have a great role that allows them to do it. And all of a sudden you're going, well, that was not a part of my story, but okay, sure. We'll pivot and we'll go with it. Yeah, Malcolm, what do you think?
I think that it's not necessarily apples and oranges, but you are looking for two different things out of those exercises. And I think that part of what Jess said lends to where that line of delineation is. If you're going to be playing a role-playing game at a table in that closed environment, you're playing it for the players. And I love scripted media. They're authors, directors, writers that I love their story that they tell, and I love just experiencing that story, whether it be on screen, on page, and I think that when you go to a TTRPG game setting, that you're so far away from that on so many levels that it's tough to draw a comparison. You do not have any time. Think about, just if we're going to say scripted media, think about the life of a script.
Right.
For a 30-minute, let's go back to the 90s, after school fun show, how many hands did that go through? How many eyes? How much refinement? How much of sticking to the story? How much of the main characters and actors having their interpretation? It's refined to a point that it is then produced, and you get a packaged thing. All of your emotional beats are on the same time. All of your jokes are for the laugh track segmenting. It's produced even down to a book. I've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I'm walking you through my story. I think that has a great place. Where I think that TTRPG gameplay is obviously different is that you're doing it collaborative. And you can say that about scripted media, but you're doing it real time.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
and there's not a rewind button. There's not an edit button usually. At least at our tables, you rolled a 1. We're going in. It's almost that railroad direction, not railroading the players, but you get manufactured from the gameplay non-scheduled emotional beats, non-scheduled humor beats. And no longer do you have my vision as the GM or the writer or the module creator or anything else. Now I have an entirely different piece of media that is dependent on that gameplay, that does not have the benefits of the editor's eye and the editing room clipping and things like that. I think they're totally different there. And then my brain goes to where have those things tried to meld in, in live play production,
Yes.
right?
Yep, that's where I was going to.
You're trying to get a scripted product because once again, and this is the delineation line, now I'm not doing a story for the players. My audience is out there. And that brings in different expectations. That brings in production elements. That brings in possible chances. Now, I believe that they're really live. They are not animatrons, and they're
still
playing the
game.
game.
They're still having dice rolls.
And they're all informing on it. But now you have a different audience. You have a different objective in my mind than to just you would almost need like the nature photographer in the bushes, like filming secretly, to get a genuine, because as soon as you interact with nature, you change nature. And I just think that it's different there. To say one is better than the other, it depends on what you want. There are those movies that you can get that let you choose your own adventure in the movie. If you're telling a good story, I'm there for a good scripted outcome of a piece of media. But I find more enjoyment when the personalities, the gameplay styles, the dice, the activity inside of a setting tells a shared story. I just think they're more fun. They're richer, as you said.
That's what I'm sorry, Jess, real quick, and then let you. What really comes to me is not necessarily that like either produces bad or good stories. I think for me, it really comes down to the fact that when you are creating a story as a TTRPG player or GM, it's audience participatory. You're not just receiving a story. You are engaged with and a part of decision making and a part of routing that story. And I just think there's a different kind of engagement there. Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was just going to say, like, since I have done both, like I've been a GM and I'm also writing a novel, it's interesting, like the level of, because you'd think there would be a very different level of control over the story because, like you've got players who are going to do stuff and that's going to kind of derail what you initially planned. And in a lot of ways that does make the story richer, but you do have to give up some control over what happens because dice rolls and player decisions are going to derail all the best laid plans. But it's actually not that different writing a novel. Your characters are going to do what they're going to do. And it feels like there's not a ton of control over what they do. Like
the characters in your chapter are rolling dice as you're going through the creative process.
Kind of feels like
absolutely.
like it kind of feels like my
this
characters
is what
are
this
going to
character would do. And it's,
it's like, because I'll try to write it. Like I want this to happen this way. And then I rewrite that same paragraph 10 times and it's not working and it's not working and it's not working. And then it's just like, it's because that character doesn't want to do that. So then I try something different. It's like, okay, that one works. Yep, the character wanted to do that instead. Okay. It's just that they can't talk back to you to know.
But it can inform your process on both the author side and the TTRPG side. And I think that one of the things that you said and you've said before that I don't disagree with it all, but it is hard for me from the way that I GM to have too much of a story. And I know I say that after writing Atoria, but if I know what the checkered flag looks like, I feel like I've already, I want them to inform that. And a lot of times I will think that parts of what they are doing are more important to their character than they actually are. And I'll try to write or try to move the story to that. Like, oh, you've just given me a lovely hook. They could care less. Like whatever that emotional moment was in the game, like came and went. And I'm like, all right, this is the next arc. And you can't, or at least I can't do that much anymore, because that's like you said, you spend hours preparing for a game. If you're writing a world while you're doing that, you could be months into planning out something that the characters don't have investment in. So like that kind of let go of the cart thing while it's rolling away from you is something that I'm trying so much more to do, because it feels to me usually like the players are going to rush to inform the thing that I'm sitting here holding on to. But
yeah, I like where this is going, because it really is. It's that difference between the GM and their, I don't know, a better word, maybe control, their direction of the game, and the players who don't know the planned trajectory, don't know how it's going to get there, and maybe making choices that are completely contrary to the goal. And how do we deal with that? I would like to pick that up after the break and talk about maybe some of the tools that we as GMs use to move players through the story or to tell the story. So when we get back on Finding a Toria.
When you sit down at the table, open the books, and spill out the dice, you're looking for an epic adventure. Tabletop role-playing is more popular than ever, and every day new players join our great hobby. My name is Steve Kellums, and I'm the host of the Epic Adventure Podcast. I'm just a fan with a radio voice, but joining me on this quest will be Mike Howlett, the co-founder of Oddfish Games, a great independent game company, and Christina Stiso, a PhD student studying game-based learning. Together, we will discuss all things tabletop gaming, from character creation to world building to setting and pacing. We will give you tips and tricks to make your games, well, epic. Like and subscribe to the Epic Adventure Podcast today.
this episode of Finding a Toria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. The Finding a Toria podcast is looking for guests for our upcoming episodes. Are you or someone you know passionate about the TTRPG community and have a story to share? If so, contact us on our socials or reach out at wordleafmedia.com/findingatoria. And now back to your program.
Hey, welcome back after the break with Finding a Toria. We are talking with our perennial GMs about telling stories at the table and how we as GMs navigate that, how we, Malcolm's going to love me, funcilitate.
It's all happening. It's all happening. T-shirts are being made. Got lawyers on this.
You know what we don't say a lot anymore?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Sad,
you want to know
actually.
why? All podcasts say absolutely all the time. I thought it was just us. You listen to any 5 podcasts and they're not counting them like we did because they've given over to it.
Right.
We're absolutely anti-established.
Right. So I wanted to talk about GMs, what kind of tools we use to facilitate the storytelling. Because we did talk about that, we usually have some sort of overarching plot, something that the players are supposed to be doing. It's not just total chaos. Well, could be. How much of our story is laid out by our players? How much of our story is determined by us ahead of time or in the middle of it? And what kind of tools are we using to do that? Is it good? Is it bad? So I think the first thing I have is, Jess, you've talked a lot about you have a story to tell. When you run your game, you have a story to tell. So how much free agency for your players do you have when you are directing that story?
I mean, realistically, the players know that they've come to the table to play a game and that there's going to be a thing for them to do. And usually, I've never had an issue with them not following the hook. And at some point, yeah, maybe I will run into that. But I kind of end up, in my prep, I end up with But backup plans on top of backup plans for, because basically like this is the thing I planned for you today, basically.
So an episode, you have an episodic goal for that session.
Yes.
Okay.
A couple of sessions ago, it was a tournament at a penis festival. Like if you don't want combat, fine, don't enter the tournament. But if you want combat, then you might want to enter the damn tournament.
You've admitted to having a nice long list of ways to get us to said tournament.
Oh yeah.
And that's the tool thing that I think that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I was like, okay, if they don't bite off of, hey, there's a poster on the wall that says enter the tournament, big cash prize. If that doesn't do it, then okay. Well, now their giant shipping crate full of the glow in the dark lichen that they want to start a drug empire with. You parked in the wrong spot. It's been impounded. Now you've got a parking ticket that you have to pay off. You need money.
Go
hey,
play
there's a tournament with the cash. Like there are like I can. And if that didn't work, and they just decided to abandon the crate, which I didn't think they would, but I was like, all right, then I'll have other ideas that would get them there. I was sitting down and thinking, I was like, okay, well, what if they try to bring the crate with them instead of leaving it somewhere? It's like, fortunately, nobody did try to, I was like, what would I do if they tried to bring it with them? Because like the thing's giant. So it's like, all right, you literally can't, there are crowds everywhere. How are you going to carry it through? That kind of.
So we were going to get to the tournament. And
ideally, yeah. I mean, if it clearly was that you didn't want to, then I'd find some way to pivot because it is for the players. But like,
so it's kind of that mode. And I think when you and I were talking about offline earlier today, it's that put the castle in front of them. You know what I mean? If the story's going to go there, and this is not to steal thunder on the topic, but this has been of issue and something that I think is worth talking about is when do you take those tools out and say, okay, you can munchkin all you want, you can dither all you want, but you're going to find yourselves going this way, because the term that comes to mind is the horrendous railroad. And I don't think that that's always a bad thing.
Yeah, and that's definitely where I wanted to get to when we talk about those tools. And I felt like you were sort of touching around it without using the actual term. But yeah, there's we talk about railroading in the game, any type of TTRPG. Does the GM railroad the game? Do they force the players onto a path to get to a point, regardless of what the players are choosing to do? And I don't think it's just our table. When you look in the community, railroading is generally sort of seen as a negative, like, oh, he just railroaded us into that or something like that.
It's equated with taking away player agency and choice,
right?
In a collaborative storytelling environment.
But I do think that depending on situation and depending on story and depending on table, that is actually a tool that can be used.
And I think that's what you were talking about was, so that we're not, and I always call this the get the hell out of the tavern moment, where, you know what I mean? Like, okay, you guys met, okay, you've dithered, okay, you've drank. Like, you've got to get them on the road somewhere. And sometimes, especially early on, those hooks aren't so obvious, to the players who are figuring out how they're running their character and things like that, to where that you almost need to, well, you went around the corner to the right, and guess what? You entered the tournament. Now you're inside. You know what I mean? Like, put the castle in front of them sometimes. And then especially if they weren't itching to get there, I like those moments where they're like, okay, we're doing the tournament, which we were all too eager to get to because there was a large cash prize involved.
What you want to call it.
What happened afterwards?
So I guess that's going to be my question out, is how do you use the railroad? And is there a point where it's too much, where you would, if you were sitting at table, it would be too much, or if as a GM you feel like it's too much, or is the railroad where you want players to be? I guess talk to me about the railroad. How much do we use the railroad versus player agency, and how much do we sort of hide the railroad within player agency?
So I guess for me, the way I operate is on, like, if it's clear that my players really, 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 really do not want to do the thing that I had
Like
planned,
actively
then,
avoiding.
Yeah, then I would, like, they know what my plan is and they really don't want to do it. If they've made that clear to me, then I will find some way to pivot, because the whole point, it's that funcilitating thing.
Sure.
Now I've said it too.
Oh, it's happening. It's all happening.
Like, the game is for them to have fun. If they're not going to have fun doing that, then it's my job as the GM to pivot and figure something else out.
And be damned the 20 pages of preparation and the
Right.
hours. It's out the window
And
when your table makes it obvious.
Yeah,
to
it's like
you.
I may consider the on-the-fly backup plan to be less good, but you know what? I mean, it's not a novel that I'm writing; it is a TTRPG that I'm running. That's
Great
two different. If I
distinction.
want to tell a story and not have people interfere with it, then I write a damn novel.
There you go.
Which I'm also doing. It's just two different types of storytelling. Sure. So with this one, it's like, all right, this is a tournament with a cash prize. They get some combat, which they haven't had in a session or two, despite. I've been reliably informed that this group is made up of murder hobos, but they've passed up every chance to murder something.
We're trying new characters.
We save it for the tournament. Put a
Yeah.
cash prize up.
Hey, I did a really good example of a murder hobo in that tournament.
You did.
Thank you.
Did.
Thank you.
You did murder hobo a lot in that.
I
tournament.
so did, and it was so enjoyable.
I mean, you do have to put the death in the death by
Stop!
Snoo. You have a space barbarian. What else did you expect?
I refuse the naming.
Okay.
By snoo.
Yeah. Okay. So okay.
So yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, technically you could count what I do as railroading, but I like to think of it more as all roads lead to Rome. The players have...
There are many trains you can get on, but we're all going to the same place, people.
Right. Like, they're all going to the same station, but which train you get on and how, do you want to take the long way route? Sure. Like, there's plenty of player agency in how you get there.
I do a lot of that as well, which is, there's information you may need. And it may be that, you're supposed to talk to XYZ NPC and you refuse to go into the place where XYZ NPC is, And so it's like, okay, well, how do we pivot that? Well, I don't know. To me, there's a lot of pivoting to allow elements of the story to happen, how the players choose for those elements to happen, while inserting those parts and pieces to influence them in their decision making, to have them go where you want them to go.
Exactly. Like, I like to call it Schrodinger's NPC.
Oh boy.
He's not in the tavern,
But he's not in the tavern, right? Because, like, I mean, I have a quest giver. Where the quest giver shows up depends entirely on where the party wants to go. It's like, okay,
Right.
After the tournament, the party decided they wanted to go to a tea house. Okay, I didn't have a tea house planned, so I'm making this up as I go because they wanted to go to a tavern. They wanted to, spend the night, they wanted to get a long rest in, they wanted to eat some food, drink some, in this case,
eat and be merry. We just want a giant golden penis.
right? It's like there was a golden statue that was part of the cash prize.
Apologize for the lack of context.
The last session prior to
Anyway.
it was the tournament was at a penis festival.
Yep.
For fertility and safety from STDs. All good things. I mean, provided that's what you want. Anyway, it's like they wanted a room with a balcony so they could, greet the adoring public as the winners of the tournament, etc. I was like, okay, sure, fine. That's harmless. We can take a detour and go to a tea house. Sure, let's do that. So they got a room, and it's like, all right, well, they're just kind of dicking around in the room. So, all right, tea house employee knocks on their door. There's somebody waiting to see you in one of the private parlors downstairs. Okay. Technically their choice whether or not to go see that person.
Right.
That's where I had intended the NPC to be waiting. If they don't, all right, well then the NPC with the quest is just going to get dropped in their path later on.
Sure.
So maybe she climbs up their balcony and breaks into their room and was like, I need your help. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. It was like that quest will get dropped in front of them at some point. It's just if they don't if they don't bite on that particular
Right.
hook, then okay, well then
There's others.
I'll try again. Like, I'll just keep trying until they. 'Cause if they absolutely refuse the quest, it's like, okay, then I have to pivot. But
So how about you, Malcolm? What do you do? How much railroad do you use?
I have a big, giant, beautiful sandbox, and I don't like to think of it as railroading. I think that in the cases that Jess was saying, I like to look at it more as a shuttle. But I think that you can get players more or less where the story needs to go by influencing the world enough that it impacts them that they need to take action.
What about situations? And I know I've played these. I've taken a one shot and ended up playing 4 or 5 sessions to get that one shot played. Our table does not make decisions or do anything quickly. But so, yeah, those situations. How much? I'm thinking about a table where like maybe they're going down a completely different path. Maybe they're not wanting to do, to Jess's point, whatever you had set up, that it just doesn't interest them at all, or doesn't seem to match who they are as players. Like, how do you as the GM facilitate those situations? Do you adjust what you intended out of the story, or do you sort of force them down this path?
Tool bag. You go to the tool bag, and if you have a party that's kind of dithering and not moving out of the tavern, is you can create a scenario that requires them to make a decision. And I think that's where you start, because usually if you have trouble getting players to recognize hooks, to jump into the story, to take part in what's going on, it's because they don't have investment in it yet through decision making, through saying, okay, I'm doing this, and then there's an outcome. So I like to give them that early, and that also creates a little bit of player synergy around the table. And usually you're going to find somebody who's got an idea of whether it's what I want them to do or not, what they should do next, and can cohese the unit by trying the next thing. So I think that it is almost more pushing them to just to make a decision from that sitting point, or we're going to wait it out here, or let's wait until we hear back from Jim, to, I don't know, start a timer. Yeah, you can definitely sit and wait. The opposing gang's on the way. Your text says that they'll be here in about 60 seconds, and turn over the little mini hourglass and create a little bit of urgency in making a decision. And that's usually, so I think that you can shuttle players places a little bit more than the railroad. But I do think that you have to be able to get them 2 points. And sometimes if we're distracted by everything, if it's out and out munchkinism where nope, I'm going to go do the thing that you don't want me to do, then you can definitely go to extremes like dropping the castle in front of them while they're walking. You can, anytime that you want to have engagement through combat or interaction, like you said, you can put that NPC any place in the world as long as it doesn't break your story. But usually I'm going to find, or in the best case scenarios, I guess, there's going to be a way to use those tools, like a timed event, like a state of urgency, a situation that's plopped right in front of them that is going to create a decision-making scenario at the table. And I think from there, the train starts to drive itself a little bit. And then for me, I do larger impacts to, if things are not going story-wise in a way that is productive or that everybody's involved in, then something in that environment changes. Something in your setting is going to apply pressure to a different level of cohesion or decision-making point at that time, and movement, getting on to that next thing, finding the thing, needing the person, needing to get somewhere. I think that you can create that. And if that's a bit of a locomotive, then okay. But to answer your other question, it can get pretty crappy pretty quick. And I think that if you have any sort of eyes over the GM screen, you're going to tell when that's not working or has stopped working. And it's going to be that look of players that are now just watching you tell your story. And it's very evident. They're not thinking about what they want to do next. They're not really invested in they know that they're going to be sent someplace at some time because you want a scene to play out, which that's, once again, session 0 and everybody's down for that. That's awesome. But at some point it becomes crutch instead of tool.
Okay.
I think and yeah, it's like maybe this was, just something we talked about in session 0 about how all right, all I ask out of my players is work with me. Don't be contrary on purpose just to mess with me.
So, and that was a question bouncing in my head was, whether from a GM standpoint or a PC standpoint, how much do you expect the PCs to say, all right, our GM has put together this hook. This might not be really what I would do if I was really this character, but it's the hook, so I'm going to jump on board.
Yeah, and I'm not asking them to, break character or do things that they really, really, really don't want to do. But what it ends up being is okay, I have this thing that I planned. If you don't go along with it in any way at all, then I don't know what to do for you today.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the sabotage.
You're sabotaging everything. I have infinite ways that I can take this thing that I planned and adjust it to what you do. Are you trying to avoid the tournament because you just don't think your character would enter a tournament? That's totally fine.
Right, but
I can have the giant chicken escape its pen and then come and be harassing people in the crowd. Now you get to be the hero instead of the one. So I can adjust things so that the situation better suits your character. But if you're trying to avoid the combat altogether, then what are you even doing playing a TTRPG? So it just depends on how they're.
And safe to say that there's space for non-combat in TTRPGs, and
we just need to know that
this was just the situation.
Yeah, so this was in this particular situation.
But I think what you're talking about is players trying to thwart a game,
right? Exactly.
Where we're just going to do, okay, it's a heist adventure, and they walk in and
I don't steal.
Right, exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
They rip off their outfits and they're all like guards for the bank, and they thwart it's the whole idea that I don't need to cheat because we're not competing, which I heard on another podcast, which is amazing. Yes. It should never be you versus the people on the other side of the screen.
Right.
And that's on you and them.
Yeah, because if somebody doesn't like combat, let's just talk about that in session 0 so I understand what kind of game you want. I'm totally happy to work with whatever. If you want to be murder hobos, I will put shit in front of you that you can kill. Not a problem. And if you don't want combat at all, also not a problem. I just need to, know that. But if I'm giving you something with the expectation that it's going to be like what we discussed in session 0, and you're purposefully trying to thwart me just because
it's that intent.
I don't want to run a game that way, and that wouldn't be fun for me as a player either.
Sure.
The whole point is for everybody to have fun. Yep. Let's, have fun with it.
Yeah. That's I want to finish things up, but that ties into one last question I had, which is, when you're looking at different tools to collaboratively tell the story, and you are the funcilitator as the GM, how important is it to know and understand the backstory and character and motivation of the PCs at the table?
I think that the GM should be involved in character creation, not rolling for you, doing those things. But yeah, as you come up with those ideas, I think having the person that's going to help facilitate that story in game, watch your eyes go, oh yeah. And then when he was 13, this happened. Those inspo moments are going to be better shared and better used. So I just think that that's mana for the GM hook machine.
I think I look at it and I think, okay, well, if I know who you are as a character, if I know what your motivations are, if I know what drives you, that allows me to better find that hook, to better draw you in, to better, instead of just saying, okay, you're going here, to say, well, this is what happened in the world. How are you going to respond? Oh, yes, you just responded exactly how I needed to, and you've gone there, type of thing. Jess?
So technically I agree with you, but what I'm actually doing is the exact opposite of that.
Uh-huh.
I don't remember anybody's character names. I don't remember any of your backstories. I know you sent me your character sheets. I was looking through them the other day. I was like, oh, I completely forgot about all that stuff. Whoops. So like I think that's just a right now, I guess early stages of my campaign. I haven't needed that backstory as the hook because I have, like an evil empire essentially that's now
You have your story.
Yeah, like I have functions within the story. I have elements within the story that are kind of like functioning as those hooks. Mm-hmm. But if I ever want to make that more personal for each one of you, then I do actually need to like really study your character sheets a little bit better. So like I have done a poor job of that thus far as a GM, and none of the hooks are very personal because how you got involved in the first place was
We got arrested and thrown in jail together.
right, exactly. Because you saw something that the evil empire didn't want you to see.
So
and
that was just a little bit of a railroad.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit of a railroad.
I started you in a prison,
right,
and then you got rescued by somebody, and it was all kind of just happenstance rather than a hook drawing you in.
Right.
You didn't have a personal motive for doing it, and now you do, because in the last session, I gave everybody baby dragons. So now
she's very generous as a GM.
Yeah.
Okay,
level 3, and they've got baby dragons.
Right? Yeah. So lots of different ways, lots of different tools as a GM that we can help facilitate our storytelling. I hope everybody would get on our socials and tell us how you facilitate the storytelling at your table, whether as a player or as a GM. What's your goal out there in the storytelling that we do when we come together? I'd love to hear your guys' answers. You can find us at Facebook. You can find us on Insta. You can find us on YouTube. And you can always find us at www.wordleafmedia.com/findingatoria. Please engage with us. We would love to hear your stories and talk with you about how you're having fun at your table. And we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Find us at wordleafmedia.com/findingatoria if you or anyone you know has stories or other good things to say about TTRPGs. Get a hold of us. You can find us on all the social medias.
This episode of Finding Atoria is brought to you by Wordleaf Media. Are you interested in sharing stories of your favorite TTRPG experiences? If so, reach out at www.wordleafmedia.com/contact us on our socials, or you can now leave a comment on your favorite Finding Atoria episode at our Wordleaf Media YouTube channel.